And I think we are live. Hello everyone, how's everybody doing? This is live coverage of very dangerous tropical storm Sally here. As you can see, it has done lots of damage to the Gulf Coast here, and it's still continuing to produce lots of rainfall, a lot of wind, and we're still even seeing some surge along the Gulf Coast. So if you are new here, be sure to click that subscribe and like button. Let's see if we can get this to at least 10 likes. And without further ado, let's get started on our coverage for today. So first thing we're going to take a look at here is the satellite imagery. And you can see, let me actually put it on play, right? And you can see it's still a very well-developed system. It's a tropical storm, but it still has a good circulation, right? It's been sitting on land for a while now. You have to remember that slow-moving tropical systems dump a lot of rain, but they also do weaken faster when they move on shore. But we still have a lot of convection on that northeast side in, say, eastern Alabama. All right, and also in through Georgia and through Florida, we have a lot of convection developing there as well. All right, and your center of circulation is kind of embedded within there somewhere. It's a little disorganized. I think a little bit of dry air might be trying to sneak in. Some shears, the shear is trying to come in as well. But overall, all right, this storm is still looking very healthy, especially for the environment it has to put up with. All right, so here is your track, and you can see that the tropical storm wind field is still pretty large. Okay, I mean it's going into central and southern Alabama. It's still going into like Mobile and even through Pensacola, Florida, and anywhere within that is where we still have the tropical storm warnings, where we are still seeing those tropical storm force winds. All right, so that would probably make a lot of sense. Then it becomes a tropical depression, moves through Alabama, moves through Georgia, and eventually we'll be moving in through northern South Carolina. Then it'll probably be weakening even more by then. But the tropical storm force wind probabilities, right, which obviously those are pretty much 100%, 90 to 100%, because, all right, we have a tropical storm on our hands right now. Winds are currently sitting I believe they're actually just shy of hurricane force. I think 60 miles an hour. The good thing is it's starting to pick up a little bit of forward speed. It is now moving actually north at 7 miles per hour, so that's good. Forward speed is always good with this. All right. And when you look at the wind field, our wind history, this really tells the story, right? We have notice how the tropical storm wind field, it kind of gets a lot wider, right? Look where it is at first, then it kind of like broadens out, right? That means the storm wind field was getting a lot larger. There's your hurricane wind field right through Mobile, even Dauphin Island. We're talking about the western edge of the Florida Panhandle as well. All right. And when we take a look at our key messages, again, big thing to take away from this is going to be the flooding. The historic and catastrophic flooding, Tallahassee, Florida, Mobile Bay, Alabama. We got significant widespread flooding. We have life-threatening storm surge as well. Now, you'll see the surge did go down, but that's because most of it's already over. Surge earlier was actually a lot higher. And tropical storm conditions are expected in southern Alabama as well as the western Florida Panhandle. Yet still, right? I know we just want this storm to go away so bad. Right? I do as well. All right, I know how you guys feel down there. Yes, but this storm will be moving out very, very slowly. The good news is though, it's not moving at 2 miles an hour anymore. It's actually moving. It's still moving at about 7 miles an hour. And Jones RMJ is here. Hello, Jones RMJ. How are you doing? And when we take a look at the surge, it's kind of like what's yet to come. What we can still sustain. Pretty much 2 to 4 feet of surge from Alabama, Florida border all the way to the Walton Bay County line. All right, so we still have a lot of surge here on our hands. And earlier it was up around 6 feet. So we pretty much had surge anywhere from right in the middle between Cat 1 and Cat 2 in terms of the surge that we saw. But it did make landfall actually as a Category 2 hurricane. At first, it was like a 100-mile-an-hour hurricane. Then it weakened to about 80 to 85 miles an hour. Then it re-energized yet again overnight on its landfall in southern Alabama. 105-mile-per-hour winds at landfall. So it was only 6 miles an hour away from Cat 3, actually. So it wasn't too far off from a Category 3 major hurricane. Thankfully, it wasn't. But like I said, 105-mile-an-hour hurricane versus 115. Besides a little bit more wind, there's really not much of a difference. This still produced a lot of surge. But again, just like Harvey, just like Allison, and Florence, the main thing to take away from this storm is going to be the rain. And how much rain? Well, looks like through northern South Carolina, we could see an additional 6 to 10 inches. About looks like for southern Alabama and western Florida, all right, looks like there should be either less than an inch or not much rainfall left at all. We'll be taking a look at the radar as well. There's still a lot out there. We still got a lot of tornado warnings and severe warnings to check out. We got 8 p.m. This is from 8 p.m. today, right? So this is valid, yes, 8 p.m. today through 8 p.m. on Friday the 18th. This is basically saying additional rainfall that we could be seeing. Atlanta, be sure to watch out for 4 to 6 inches of rainfall for you. All right, even some very tiny pockets throughout Georgia of some 6 to 10 inch, but mainly 4 to 6. And we got 4 to 6 inches of rain from eastern Alabama through northern Georgia, pretty much central and northern South Carolina, and pretty much all of central and even parts of western North Carolina. Looks like maybe the Smoky Mountains might miss this a little bit, but the heaviest rain will be to your east. But again, even 1 to 2 inches of rain is still a lot, and for that mountainous terrain can still cause a lot of problems. All right. So again, we still have a ton of rain that is still expected to come here. All right, over the next 3 days. All right, we got eastern Alabama and western Georgia, and that very high risk for flash flooding. We do not see that very often. All right, so that's definitely saying something. We even have moderate and slight risk going all the way up into Virginia Beach. All right, so you can tell this is a very significant storm. We're actually be popping on the radar very shortly here. But when we look at the, well, not this radar. I was talking about a different radar, but this is the National Weather Service radar. All right, so let's actually zoom in a little bit so you guys can see it better. All right, now what you would call the quote-unquote eye wall at this point, I really can't call it an eye wall because there's not much left of the storm system, but there is a little bit of circulation, and on that northern flank of that circulation, right about here, all right, that's where we're seeing kind of like our eye wall. But we have tornado warnings in those and at our periphery of the storm, which I'll be taking a look at pretty much right now. All right, so let's pull up that My Radar. All right, and again, the app is called My Radar. It's not actually mine. All right, let's take a look at the warnings. Let's enable those. All right, and there we go. This map is definitely getting lit up, that's for sure. All right, we got a lot of flash flow warnings in effect. All right, we're talking about Baker County, Calhoun County. We're talking about Georgia at this point. Dougherty County, Early, Lee County. I mean, Quitman County, Randolph. And the list just goes on, and that's just in one set of warnings. All right, so we have a lot of flash flood warnings out there. We have a lot of river flood warnings as well. We got flood warnings for the Alabama River. That's kind of generic. It's in Alabama, right? The Alabama River at Montgomery. All right, from Friday afternoon to Saturday morning. So it looks like, observed, 9 a.m. on Wednesday, the stage of this river was 20.8 feet. Flood stage is 35. All right. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, that's not bad at all, right? Well, minor flooding is forecast because the river will expect through early afternoon Friday could get to 35 feet early Friday afternoon. All right, and at 35 feet, expect to see some extensive flooding of the lowlands in the area that the river has flooding. So good news is, at 35 feet, that's just entering flood station. Not too many homes will be impacted, but still have to watch because with a lot of rain coming down, these totals could go up. And looks like Jones RMJ says, how many weather do kebabs would it take to kebab Hurricane Sally? Well, definitely a lot them in the last one, this storm is a very significant storm, so it's going to take a lot of them. But this is a very large storm system, and we actually do have another set of warnings over here as well. We have tropical storm warnings that are still in effect, aerial flood warnings, flash flood warnings. Yeah, this storm's all about the flooding here, but we also do have some tornado activity. Looks like we have actually, let's go to severe thunderstorm warnings. All right, I'll have to search a little bit harder to find those tornado warnings that are embedded within there somewhere. But we do have a severe thunderstorm warning here. Let me bring my drawing tool back. Severe thunderstorm warnings, okay? We have 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and even a possible tornado. All right. Radar indicated here, expect damage to roofs, siding, and trees. Again, a severe warning will remain in effect till 6:15 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, and this is for Central Ware and Central Clinch County. So again, 60-mile-an-hour winds. This is in southern Georgia, I believe. Again, roof, siding, and tree damage. It looks like Jones RJ says, "How is school going for you?" Honestly, with the online thing, it's been going pretty good. Obviously not what you expected in a normal school year, but it's not going too horribly. But you know what is going horribly though? Hurricane Sally, because this storm is still producing a lot of damage, and you can still see the circulation. It's a very tight circulation still, which is very impressive for a storm like this. Now I'll have to search a little bit harder to find the tornado warnings. I do see them on the National Weather Service map, all right, but I'm not picking them up on the My Radar map. So let's actually go into Georgia. All right, so it looks like south central Georgia there. Let's go take a deeper look into Georgia and see if we can find them. All right, but all those red boxes that you see, those are all river flood warnings. So we have a lot of flood warnings in place, not flash flood. We're talking about the river flood. So regular flood warning just means that rivers could be flooding. All right, and I'm diving a little bit deeper. I don't see any. I know there are definitely some out there, but we do have, again, tropical storm warnings, flash flood warnings, and also river flood warnings. All right, and speaking of rivers, all right, this is taking a look at some of the river forecasts. All right, you can see all these purple dots on here for southeastern Alabama, western Florida Panhandle. All those purple dots are rivers, even 16 river gauges that could go into major flood stage. All right, they're forecast to at some point. All the red dots they see outside of that, still we could see moderate flooding. Even up through Atlanta, we got many rivers around Atlanta and through Columbia that we could see minor to even close to moderate flood stage here. So that could certainly cause damage to those low-lying areas, even those homes as well that live by the river. We have a flash flood watch, although it probably is a flash flood warning for a lot of places at this point. Apalachicola, Tallahassee, up through Albany, Dothan, Alabama, Mariana, even Panama City. We'll actually be taking a look at the tide cycles there in Panama City very soon. All right, so you can tell the storm is no joke. All right, just because it's a tropical storm, just because the word hurricane has been taken out of the equation. All right, don't let Sally drift out of your thoughts here. This is still a very dangerous storm, and when we look at the observed rainfall, we've seen over 15 to probably over a couple of feet, all right, of rain already, and we still got a little bit more coming down. Yes, Jones RMJ, yes, the stream is running a lot better. I think this will probably be my new permanent, at least for the stream location, not for my regular videos. All right, for some reason, I've been doing my videos the same place to do my streams. I never had any problems, so that was certainly something very weird, but probably this will be my new location for streaming now on. Hopefully, thankfully, it's working a lot better for you guys. That is definitely good to hear. All right, and even through southern Alabama, some places we've seen 2-4 inches of rainfall already. But for places like central Alabama, there's going to be a lot more on the way. It really hasn't gotten to you guys yet. But where we've seen, 10, 20 inches of rainfall, that's where you guys have seen most of the rainfall already. So expect quite a few inches of rainfall. Again, through Georgia, through South Carolina, it's not going to be nearly what we've seen on an Alabama Florida coastline, but it's still very life-threatening and it's still dangerous. I wouldn't call it unsurvivable completely, but it can certainly still cause a lot of problems, and you guys do need to take a lot of precaution. And yes, if you guys ring the bell notifications, you can stay tuned for when Jones RMJ and I do our next live wire discussion. Hopefully, we'll be able to do it sometime soon. So if you subscribe and ring the bell notifications, you will be notified for when that comes out. All right, and let's take a look actually at Panama City. I said I was going to show this to you guys. We're taking a look now at Panama City. All right, and this is the tide schedule here. All right, and you can see we had a high tide at 10:30 this morning. Good news is, at least some good news, right? We need good news. Low tide is just in about an hour from now, from when I'm doing this live. So it's 6 o'clock right now. Looks like 7 o'clock we will see a low tide. All right, so that's good. But the bad news is we're going to see a 11:45 a.m. high tide tomorrow morning. Right? You might be thinking, well, why is that bad news, right? The storm is pretty much going to be gone by then, right? It's not a problem. Well, not necessarily. Here's a look at tomorrow morning's high tide, right around 11 or 12 o'clock. All right. This is taking a look at the wind gusts. All right. And here's Panama City. All right. And actually, let me see. Yeah, let's make sure the wind particles are turned on. There we go. All right. And you can see that even though the storm Sally is definitely long gone itself. I mean, you can see Sally is up here at this point, up through Athens. This is at 12 p.m. when Panama City will see their first high tide tomorrow at 12 p.m. Look at this, though. We still have winds gusting over 34. We're talking about, even just offshore of that, we're talking about winds gusting 34 to 40 miles per hour. So winds gusting very close to tropical storm status, and that wind is pushing the water onshore. So this is a very big problem, and especially for Panama City. Well, why do I say that? Let's zoom in a little bit closer to Panama City. This is actually what you would call, quote-unquote, downtown Panama City right there. And you can see that the water, there's actually a little break in like the island here, if you want to call it like an island, so to speak. And you can see there's a little break in there where the water can flow in and then move all the way up right past downtown Panama City. So you see what I'm trying to get at here. Even though even though the winds are dying down, it's still a very dangerous threat, especially when you zoom in a lot closer for the geography of Panama City. You can see the threat. You can definitely see the threat here. All right, so the water comes up and it could be pushed right into Panama City. So between, I'd say, like an hour or so before and an hour or so after high tide. Especially be careful in Panama City. Right around 11 or 12 again will be your high tide, and there will be winds up to 40 miles an hour pushing the water on shore. And Jones RMJ, the peak category, the winds. So this turned out to be a Category 2 at landfall. I would call it right like a mid-level Cat 2 with winds of about 105 miles per hour. Like I said, it went back and forth. It was 100-mile-an-hour winds for a little bit, and it died down to 80, and it re-energized right before landfall, which was very bad news because this increased the surge. It also increased the wind damage and therefore the power outages. Speaking of those power outages, I may be pulling up some maps as I go. If I might forget to pull up an occasional map or two. But take a look at the power outages here. Let's take a look at that. Alabama here, you have a lot of customers without power. All right, as a matter of fact, I think yes, we have about 288,000 power outages. This was updated at about 15 minutes ago or so. We have nearly 300,000 power outages in the state of Alabama. You might be thinking, okay, that's not bad. But take a look at the two counties. Look at, I think, how you say this, Conecuh County? It's Conecuh, right? There's 567 customers tracked in that county, and 528 of those customers are out, right? So that's the majority of the entire county. Also, Baldwin County, 130,000 customers are tracked, and 126,000 are without power. So Alabama as a whole, 288,000 power outages. You might be thinking, okay, it's not bad. But remember, that does not mean 288,000 people, because I'm sure that within this, some of these, this also includes families, right? So when you talk about family, that could potentially double what the number actually is in terms of people. It could double it. It could even potentially triple it. All right. Then there's also some people that also do live by themselves, so you do have to weigh that in the factor. But usually, I would pretty much double this number, and that gets you actual power outages. So we're talking about probably anywhere from 5 to 600,000 people without power, and that's just Alabama, right? Keep in mind, Florida has a lot of customers without power too. We have 250,000 outages right now in the state of Florida, right? And again, that could be 500,000 people potentially. But when you look at the state of Florida, it's only in the extreme western part. We're talking about the extreme western panhandle of Florida is where we're seeing those customers that have power outages. You can see look, this is kind of cool. The farther you go west, the more in those counties, the more power outages they go up. So let's take a look at Walton County, 3,200 customers without power. You go one county over to Okaloosa, 33,000 customers without power. You go another county over to the west, Santa Rosa, 56,000 without power. And Escambia, I think I'm saying that right, nearly 150,000 customers without power. And that's just that county alone. That could actually be 300,000. So the power outages in Escambia County could even be almost near what the entire state of Alabama is. That's like half the state outages in Alabama right now. So it's a very dangerous situation, as you can see. Now, where could this storm be going in its near future? All right. I mean, even though Sally doesn't have much of a future, it's still going to be continuing to cause a lot of problems through Alabama, through Georgia. And let's take a look at that. There you go. Georgia and through South Carolina, but the low pressure center starts to lag farther behind. You might be thinking, well, why is the low lagging so far behind and all the rain's all the way up there? Keep in mind, this storm, even though it's getting to help with some steering patterns, it's still moving pretty slow. But there's also a lot of shear that's coming in that's taking all the convection, tearing it apart from the storm system, and it's placing it all the way into South Carolina, North Carolina. The low pressure center, according to the HRR model, the low pressure center, this is at 10 a.m. on Thursday, right? 10 a.m. Thursday, Eastern Alabama, okay? That's where the low center is. And you have rain extending all the way up into West Virginia and Virginia. And Jones RMJ, oh, no problem. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the stream, Jones RMJ. And hopefully you'll be back soon. All right. But anyway, looking at the convection, the deepest convection looks to be in Georgia and western South Carolina at this point. All right. So again, I'm gonna leave the radar view on for a little bit. All right. We're gonna take a brief break here. I'm gonna let the radar spin for you guys. All right. And the weather dude will be back very shortly. So here is the radar here from very dangerous Tropical Storm Sally. And we are back. All right, so again, taking a look at the center of circulation here. Again, your center of circulation is all the way back here. Actually, since the map is a little bit darker, I'll actually use like a lime green color. There's your center of circulation, right? But your convection is starting to get torn apart a little bit. So the convection looks like it may be moving a little bit fast, but the low center itself really isn't. But it's still got a nice wraparound flow. And because of this, because that wraparound flow is so well organized, that we still got Santa Rosa Beach, Panama City, Apalachicola feeling the onshore push. Now, maybe that's some good news for places like Pascagoula here, in Gulfport, in New Orleans, right? We got the opposite side. We have the northern wind that is pushing the rainfall off, or the water offshore that may still be left over from Hurricane Laura, or it may help to lower the water levels in general, which I guess of course is good news. But then we also have the eastern side of Laura, right? We got the wind coming in from this way, but also maybe with a front interacting potentially. We're starting to see a little bit of wind coming from the southeast. So in turn, Palm Coast, St. Augustine, we're starting to see, all right, some an onshore push of wind there as well. So you can see that this is a very dangerous storm system. It is definitely large. All right, there's a lot of rain, and also be on the lookout for a lot of tornadic activity with all these bands here. Look at these severe weather bands that are pretty much getting generated off on the Gulf of Mexico here, right? And an onshore push of wind is helping to push them a little bit farther north. So when you combine the onshore push of wind along the coast with a lot of heavy rain, this storm. Right, the main story with this is the rainfall. Again, as I mentioned earlier, just like Harvey, Florence, Allison, all these slow-moving systems, the biggest threat is always the rain. All right, whenever a storm is slow-moving like this, and surge as well. All right, when a storm is this slow-moving, we usually don't. I mean, obviously the wind is a very big problem, but that's obviously not the biggest threat. And when you combine Sally's moisture with we got some banding come off the Gulf of Mexico, Peninsula of Florida, North, Central, and Southern Florida. All right, we're starting to see some flare-up of thunderstorms. It's not all Sally. It's mixed with Sally's moisture plus the daytime heating. You get your usual thunderstorm activity there in Florida. So again, here's what the storm looks like on satellite imagery here. Again, for what it's dealing with, I think it's got a pretty impressive convection, but it's starting to lose its deepest convection right now. Let's actually see if we can take a look at our perceptible water loop real quick, and we'll take a look at 8. So this is... and this is about 6 o'clock right here. So on the northern side of the storm, so we're going to take a look at the HRR model here. And on the northern side of the storm, looks like we're picking up P-watt values of 2.17 inches. So the good news is those P-watt values have fallen, which means not quite as much moisture in the atmosphere, but that's still a lot of moisture, guys. That is nothing to mess around with. Then on the eastern side of the system, where that banding of storms that we saw, P-watt is 2.33 inches, so a little bit more moisture there. And remember, that's not how much rain is going to fall. That's how much moisture is in the atmosphere, which does in turn lead to the heavier rainfall. Then, by 10 a.m. on Thursday, you're going to continue to notice the P-watt values stay the same, right? 2.27 inches. They may fall a little bit depending on where you are. But still, this storm is very dangerous. Thank you guys a lot for watching. All right, as we track very dangerous tropical storm Sally live today. So I thank you guys very much for watching. I am the Weather Dude. Signing off till next time. I will